Hey guys, and welcome to Of Those Below. In this series, I will be interviewing people who have amazing stories to tell. I hope you find them encouraging and inspiring. Here we go. Hey, Vienna.
Hello.
How are you, cousin?
I am doing well, cousin. How are you?
I've always called you that. I don't know if you've ever liked it, but I've always called you cousin.
It's like when Hispanic people call each other prima.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I don't like calling you prima just because like I mostly talk to you in English. So I feel like
Yeah.
cousin's the equivalent of prima,
Yeah.
literally. So yeah. Where are you? Are you still I know you're in Texas, but what city are you in?
I'm still in Arlington.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, like a few minutes from my parents' house. So
Yeah.
yeah, same area code,
Oh, I love that. Your
zip
parents
code.
doing well?
Yeah, they're all right. They're old. Um, so they're being old, taking naps,
Oh, I saw
you
that.
know.
Yeah, I saw a picture of your dad on your story the other day, and I'm like, dude, my uncle looks the same, exact same since the day I met him.
Really? I think
Yeah,
he's gotten older.
we see him more often. Probably, I guess you can tell. I don't know. He has the same plaid shirt and hat. And the same
Oh
haircut he's
yeah.
always had his entire life.
Yes, in that aspect, he looks the same.
Yeah,
His style hasn't changed in
yeah.
20
That's
plus years. So,
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I'm really excited to hear your story here in a little bit. But first, I want to tell my 5 active listeners on my podcast. I want to tell them how we met. So obviously we're cousins. I didn't know we were cousins when I met you.
me
I feel
neither.
like, yeah, and we look so different. Like I'm 5'10". How tall are you?
50.
Okay, so you're 5 foot, and so like I would never have thought we were related. But I there's 2 times I remember meeting you. One, the actual time I think I met you, you came to Chicago.
Yes. I
Yes.
don't remember that too well, but I do know of it.
I think I was probably 10 and my dad had a barbecue and I remember you were playing with my sister's dog.
Of course, I was playing with the
Napoleon.
dog.
Yeah. And I think I remember seeing you, but I had no idea who you were. And then the actual time I think I met you was when we moved to Texas.
Yeah.
Oops. Yeah, when we moved to Texas, I didn't have any friends. And my parents, my dad and your mom are cousins. Is that right?
Yeah. I was trying to remember uh, how I think your grandfather and my grandmother are siblings.
Mm,
I think so. Siblings
okay.
or cousins, I don't know.
I know, but we're like what, third removed?
Something like that. I don't
Yeah.
understand how all that
I
stuff
I
works.
don't
So
either.
yeah,
I just believe people now and they're like, yeah, we're family. I'm like, okay, I believe it. Like,
yeah.
but
Probably are. We all
yeah.
are.
But we I remember you'd come over or I'd come over and like we really like our high years, we really saw a lot of each other, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like late high school was when we were closest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I don't really know how we drifted apart after that.
Yeah,
Oh, I think you went to college. You
I
went off to
did. I
college.
went out of state. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that. And
Yeah.
then came back, we kind of reconnected a little bit. We had our yearly meetup. Remember that?
Yeah. We did that for a few years and then
And then pandemic,
life got
yeah.
in the way. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's when I actually remember like seeing you, meeting you. Remember we would prank call. Was it you that you we
Oh
prank
God.
call that the house in front of my house with pizza?
Yeah.
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 Dude, we got into some shit. That was fun.
Oh man, I forgot about that. Yeah,
So fun.
rebel.
And yeah, anyway. So yeah, I really appreciate our relationship as cousins. I feel like more it's a friendship, but I really appreciate our friendship.
Yeah,
You've always been just like a comic relief for me, and but also like you know when to be serious and when to like tone it down. So I don't know. You just read a room really well, I think.
Thank you. Thank you. I've made it my career. So
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. So I asked you to take the Enneagram test. Do you remember your number?
I was a 9.
9.
Yeah.
So the 9s, they're labeled as the peacemaker. There's some of the adjectives to describe them. Let's see, easygoing, receptive, reassuring, agreeable. Would you say those are accurate? Would you say you disagree with any of those adjectives?
Yeah, I would say that pretty much sums me up. I wasn't surprised when I saw it. I was like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So it all fits.
Do you think that fits into your career as a psychology major,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes. Technically, I'm a counselor, licensed
Wow.
professional counselor.
Wow.
So yeah, I think it fits pretty well. I think that's kind of what I've been doing most of my life, not just like before school. I've been being that peacemaker of like, I've always been able to see like both sides of the story. And so that's made it a little bit easier for me to slip right into counseling. And so yeah, I mean that fits really well with who I
Yeah.
am.
Do you feel like as a counselor, I would assume you're constantly like giving, you know, your wisdom, your perspective, your love into your clients. Do you feel like that pouring out of yourself, do you feel like you are able to get poured back into by either your community or self-care or anything like that?
I think that's been something that's been hard to learn.
Sure.
Um, I definitely think that's something that doesn't come naturally. So you kind of have to be intentional about it. Um, because I remember when I was doing my internships, like when I was still in school, it was really hard on me. It did feel like I was pouring into others and I wasn't really getting poured back into. And a lot of that was just stress and not having time because you're in graduate school. So
Oh, for sure.
there isn't time. But as I've started working, having an income has made it really easy.
Sure.
You're actually able to like go and do things and spend some money on yourself. I've done my own counseling here and there. Yeah, so it's a long process to get to the point where you know yourself well enough to understand what's going to help you feel
Yeah.
better. And I think I'm still kind of working on it and it's coming along.
Yeah, good. I'm so glad. I feel like a lot of it's just not official mentors, but people who I've looked up to who have these leadership roles have had get this burnout after a while,
Oh yeah.
and it's just it sucks because it's like, oh, like these are the most giving people I've met, but yet they lack that in their own lives, which is just unfortunate.
Yeah. And it's because you're not really taught to have boundaries, right? Someone who's naturally empathetic or naturally able to be giving, like they don't teach you the other end of it, right? That once you give, like that piece of you is gone. So it's like you need to search for more in order to get it back. But that's not something we talk about very much.
Yeah, no, I agree. Especially I feel like in certain cultures, specifically our culture, I feel like boundaries are just a word that isn't
What's that?
Yeah, no, because
Yeah.
my parents' favorite phrase is "blood is thicker than water." I'm like, that is your first red flag. No, it's okay to say no. But anyway,
Yeah.
I feel like we could have a really good conversation because I really do admire what you do. It's amazing that you would take on such a role because it's now in this day and age, everything's finally being talked about. And so people are more acceptable and open-minded to admitting that they need therapy or counseling. And so that means there's like a lack of you. There's a
shortage. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a couple questions that are not necessarily about your Enneagram, but a little more fun. So there's no wrong answer. But and just to get to know you a little better. So if you were a dog breed, what dog breed would you be?
That's a difficult one.
Oh no.
Um, I think I would probably be a terrier, some sort of terrier. I know there's a lot.
Yeah,
I don't really know. Maybe a Yorkie.
a Yorkie.
Um,
I love that
yeah, because I'm small.
because you're
And
small. Okay.
yeah, and I mean, I think when I think about terriers, I think about like digging.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I guess that's kind of part of
Oh,
my
I
job is
see.
to
I like
kind of
that.
dig at not in a bad way, in a good way, right? To dig
Yeah,
deeper and try and find the root cause of things and to go deeper
that's
into
actually pretty
people's
good.
stories.
That's a good,
I just naturally pulled that up.
wow. No, that's good. On the spot, that was really good too. Okay, cool. A terrier, that's fun. I immediately thought like you said terrier, and I'm like, you're not really like loud because I think terriers and they're just real yappy. But
I can be yappy sometimes.
okay,
I've been known.
love it, love it. All right, next question for you. What was your favorite childhood dish?
Um, mm, I don't know. I think I have a lot of things that I was really into. Like I go through phases, I guess, where I like really like something and then I get tired of it and then I move on to the next thing. Um, but I really remember really liking my grandma's beans,
Mm,
just like just like fresh beans, just like
yes.
refried,
Oh, yes.
made in Mexico, like from
It
Mexico,
has to
in
be
Mexico,
it
by a
on.
Mexican woman.
Yes. Yes, it has to be in one of those like of wood stoves,
Uh-huh.
you
Yeah,
know.
you gotta
Oh,
put
my
wood in there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
yes. Authentic, you can't be authentic. It
With
doesn't
like
matter how.
homemade tortilla. Mm,
Oh, dude,
good stuff.
so good. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That sounds good.
Well, and you're not a number, so I always like to ask questions that are a little more fun, a little more personal. So now that we got to know you a little better, what story are you going to share with us?
So I was trying to think of something funny because that's my MO, right? I like to be
I
funny.
love that.
But I think I'm just gonna go with my life story. um, so that's what I'm gonna start with the following sentence to kind of get you started. All right. Ronald Reagan is responsible for my existence.
Wow.
Yes.
All right.
If he was not born or if he had not been president, I would not be here today.
Okay.
Because
Let's hear it.
so my dad has was so my dad's old. He was born in like the 40s, late 40s, and so he was in his 20s ish around like the time the 70s. And so he would come to the US very regularly. He was born in Mexico. So he would come to the US very regularly, illegally, of course. And it was a lot easier back then to do that.
Sure.
So he would just come, they would kick him out, he would come back, kick him out again. If you just get him talking, he will tell you stories about all the times he's gotten deported and had to come back.
Sad. Yeah.
It's a lot of them is pretty sad. He figures
Yeah.
out a way to make them funny, but
Sure. No
yeah,
worries.
so he was doing that a lot, and then in 1986, I looked it up. That is when Ronald Reagan signed some immigration act. I can't remember what it's called. That made, I think it gave residency to most like farm workers or like a large portion of immigrants from Mexico. And so that made it possible for my dad to travel back and forth between Mexico and the US. And that is how he started dating my mom
Wow. Okay.
because they were born in the same small town, right? Same town that your dad is from,
Yeah.
Machiniva.
Yeah.
And so that they grew up near each other, knowing of each other, but they didn't start dating until my dad was like had his residency, and he had a job in the US and was making a living here, and then was able to travel to visit his family over there. And that's kind of how they became close, because like he would come and visit her and they would kind of date a little bit, and then he would go back and he would come back as soon as he could to go see her again.
Oh.
And so that's kind of how they dated until they got married. In 1990 they got married, at 7-Eleven.
Oh,
1990.
wow.
That's how I remember it, although in Spanish it's not anything. It doesn't rhyme or anything.
No worries.
And then after they got married, my mom decided to stay in Mexico until she got pregnant with me, and then she was like, well, I guess I got to go to the U.S. so that my kid will be born a U.S. citizen. And so that's when she moved to the U.S. And so that's the story of how I was conceived.
Did they go immediately to Texas, or did they travel around?
No, my dad was in Chicago. He was living in Chicago and had an apartment. And so they lived in that apartment while my mom was pregnant, and maybe shortly after I was born, then they bought a house in the suburbs of Chicago. So
Wow,
we were
I
there.
didn't realize that.
Yeah, so I lived there until I was maybe six or seven.
You were born in Chicago.
Yeah, I was.
The heck? Wow. So your social starts with a number 3?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, cool.
I didn't know that's how you knew yours. Yeah, I didn't know that was a connection with the numbers.
Yeah, that's so crazy. I didn't realize that. So your mom, like, because I know your mom's really close. I mean, I feel like your mom, your dad, my dad, they're all very close to their family. Like your mom went, and like your dad had gone up and down a lot, but your mom really like took a leap of faith and was like, I'm going a whole nother country.
Yeah. Especially because she still lived with her parents. Like she was in her 30s and lived with her parents. Had never been married before. Like she had my brother, but she wasn't married or had never had a long-term relationship. So she just like went for it.
That's pretty brave.
Yeah. I think the main reason, I don't think she was planning on moving here until she got pregnant. I don't know if that was an accident or not, but I think the motivation was like for me to have citizenship and to make a life here.
See, that's something about I think our culture that doesn't get talked about enough, like the risk and bravery to go to a different country and give your kid an opportunity just because they're born there is, and you're going through a pregnancy, you're going to literally transition your life, go through not knowing the language or not knowing much of it, a new environment, and know how to get around, and it's going from Machiva, which is like, I always say it's a village.
It's basically a village.
Yeah, it's not really a town, into a city like Chicago. Like I can't even imagine being pregnant going through that stress. So that's just something that I think is really cool, and realize your mom did that.
Yeah, and she did it legally, not to discount how hard that was for her, but she did it legally. Like she didn't have to worry about getting deported or anything like that. So there's so many people that make that decision without having any papers or without having any backing. Like they just go for it. So I've always admired that about our culture, our people. So I was like 6 or 7 when we moved down to Texas. My dad got a job here, and so we moved. I hated it.
Really?
I was devastated. It was one of my earliest memories, was like my parents telling me that we were moving. So my earliest memory was like them telling me that we were moving. And so that was a hard time for me, but I somehow adjusted eventually. And even when I went to college, I stayed in Arlington. So I did my bachelor's in psychology with a minor in Spanish. And so I did it from home. So I just kind of lived at home and drove. It's like down 20 minutes away from my house. So I just did that.
So perfect.
Very convenient. Then for my master's degree, I had to go somewhere else because UT Arlington did not have a master's counseling program. So I moved to Denton.
Yeah. How was moving from like to a new city? What was that transition like for you?
It was not bad. I was ready, which I think part of it was because I had stayed home for longer than one would expect, right? I was like 22, maybe 23. So I felt ready to go. Like I was sick of being home with my parents. I was ready to make my own life, to live by myself. So it wasn't super hard on me. And then I moved in with a friend that I knew from high school. We were already really close, so that wasn't difficult either.
That's good.
We moved together to Denton, and then I did my degree. It was 2 years, very stressful 2 years.
Oh man,
I grew a lot. Growing pains is an understatement. That's the first time I discovered, like, I was studying to be a counselor, and that's when I was like, I should go to therapy while I was doing my degree, because it was really hard on me. And I had never been under that much stress. I had never been through that many transitions and changes myself. And so I really eventually decided I needed to go to therapy to kind of sort everything out, which has really helped. So I just did my master's degree.
What's your opinion on like an older generation and like therapy? Do you feel like you get a little more like, oh no, like I'll just pick yourself up by your bootstraps and you can do it. Like we didn't have therapy when we were younger. Like what's your opinion like older people in therapy?
This is where I will be outed as a communist. I think that older people probably need therapy more than younger people do.
I love that. I love that statement.
because of that attitude that they grew up with, right? Like we grew up in a different world where it's okay to share your emotions. It's okay to struggle. All of that is like you can talk to your friends about things. All that is accepted. Therapy is a commonplace thing now. And that's the thing our generation has that older generations don't have. And so I think it's that much more important for older generations to break that cycle and to say, yeah, let me try it out. Let me work on myself, because you didn't have that luxury when you were younger.
Yeah, that's I agree with that. That's kind of my bias there, is I feel like the reason this younger generation's in therapy is because the older generation didn't go. That's just my um so do you feel like an older someone who's older, do you feel like there's still hope for them to change and grow, even though I know you said like they're not stuck in their ways, but there's that mentality of like you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
I think it's all about being willing to change, being willing to work on things. Because the other reason why not everyone should go to therapy just because is because it's an active choice that you have to make every week. You have to go. And not only do you have to go and just sit there for an hour and talk, you have to work on yourself and you have to do homework and kind of outside of that. Like, right, you can't just go and talk for an hour and say you're cured. Like, it's a process and it takes time, it takes energy, it's painful. So, if you're willing to go through that, if you're willing to put your all into it, then yeah, like, especially someone who's older, they can really turn their life around if they want to. It just takes commitment.
Mm-hmm. How do you I know we kind of went down a rabbit hole. Do you feel like you have a good mix of like older, younger, and within your clients?
Yeah, so I haven't really gotten to that yet, but what I do is kind of like I do groups mainly. So I don't really see people individually right now. I'm mainly doing, they call them battery intervention groups. So say, to answer your question, yes, I see older people as old as in their 70s, as young as 19, 20.
Wow.
So all walks of life, all races, ethnicities, rural, urban, low income, high income. Mostly men, because of what I do. Like pattern intervention is for people who have perpetrated domestic violence, who are domestic violence abusers. And so, yeah, that's 95, 96% of my clients are men. But yeah, but all ages, all.
Wow. It's so you're such a badass. You're such a badass. You're 5 foot and you're working with the men who have who are not the best men in this world. And so that's really admirable and brave. So let's pick up where you left off. So you went to grad school by the grace of God, you finished. And from there, was it hard finding a job?
It was a process. I wouldn't say it was easy. It wasn't the hardest thing. So that's complicated too, and I don't want to turn that into a whole thing. But basically, when you finish school, it's not as simple as just getting a job and starting to work. You have to. There's an exam that I had to take for to apply for my licensure, um, and so that took a bit. I had to study for it, and of course, I was nervous, so I didn't do it right away. Fascinating, as is my nature. So I did the test, passed it, and then you have to like submit your application to get your license, your intern license is what they used to call it. So then you have to go through like a period of practicing, basically, like being supervised for a year and a half to maybe 5 years is the max of basically receiving like professional supervision by someone who's already a counselor, and then you can be fully licensed after that. So that was hard to find. I had to find a supervisor before I could, like, on my resume, it didn't look good if I didn't already have my license.
Sure.
So that was a process of finding someone who was willing to give me free supervision or low cost supervision included with my job.
So you have to pay for this supervision.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, I'm currently paying for it because I'm still not done. But you can also get it, like some jobs will offer it to you for free if they have people on staff that are supervisors.
That's really interesting setup. I didn't realize the process. You know, I would think like you go to school, you have your degree, the license makes sense, but then it's like, then I would assume, yeah, I understand supervision, but to pay someone to be like, hey, can you, that's kind of mind blowing to me.
Everything costs money.
Everything costs money.
And then every few years you have to like do continuing education credits.
Oh,
and
yeah.
those can cost money if you don't find the free ones. But you have to keep your license up, so that also
That makes
can
sense.
cost money. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Do you feel like now that I would assume like you're finding your pace. I know you said you're still being supervised, but now that you're in this place in your career track, do you feel like this is the job for you? Like you made a good choice and when you were 18 deciding to major in psychology?
I definitely think it's been good for my relationships and for my development in general. So I think I made a good choice and I enjoy my job. And once again, this is where I show myself as a communist. Do I like to work? No, I do not. Like my job, I just don't like the idea of, like there's a lot of issues with, how much you get paid
Sure.
like working at a nonprofit versus working for profit.
Yeah.
You know, insurance sometimes doesn't cover counseling, and so that's a whole thing. So yeah, like I enjoy my job. I don't think I can't think of a profession that would really make me as happy,
Mm,
because I'm a more well-rounded person than I would have been if I hadn't had all these experiences,
I like
met
that.
all of these people, um, and not even just like the education, but like like the actually meeting people, working with low income clients, I've worked with kids in the past, like where I'm
Mm,
at right now, like I wouldn't be who I am today, if it wasn't for all of that. So I would definitely not change anything about what I did or the choices I made.
I love that. That's that's great. That's that your attitude of like is everything. I feel like, like that perspective is such a positive one. And um yeah, I think you are very humble, but you are changing the world one
Thanks.
session at a time. Um yeah, that's really cool. Um like I said before, like what you do is admirable. And um especially in this day and age where it's like I think people are more receptive, more open to that. Do you feel like at all unsafe in the environment that you're in currently?
No, no. No, I've never felt unsafe. Even when did one of my internships at the jail in Denton County, and I never felt unsafe.
Mm,
Um, no, I mean, I think the main thing is like these are just people, right? Like these are people that make bad choices, right? They're not animals. They're not uh, evil. Like they're human beings, and so once you have that in your head, like that's not an issue.
mm.
So I've never felt unsafe. Mm-mm.
Do you feel like at the very core, people are just people, like no matter who they are, people in front of you and at work or your friends, like we're all capable of the same things?
What do you mean?
Like, do you feel like a environment is what shapes someone, or do you feel like
Uh,
given any environments people can do good or bad, or you know what I mean, like
yeah, that's a good question. I think that it's a mixture of um, both your environment and I guess your like genetics.
okay.
Um, so a lot of things you can't really control. So you can't control your race or ethnicity. You can't control the environment, the country you're born in. Can't control any like genetic conditions or anything like that. Um, but you're like, and then your environment as well. Like you not can't always control that, right? Especially when you're a kid, especially when you're um, struggling financially or whatever it is. Like you can't always control that, but you can control the choices that you make. Um, and so I think we're all capable of greatness. I think it's a lot easier for some than others to
Mm,
achieve greatness.
mm,
And so that's where you get to the difference between equality and equity. So equality is treating everyone the same, and equity is treating each person or giving them access to the same opportunities based on their own, like what their own needs.
mm,
So if someone who is born into someone who's a person of color born into a rough neighborhood and like in a low income family with a lot of issues, like they're going to have a harder time becoming a CEO of a company or the president or whatever it is than someone who's already born into a prominent like political family or someone who is already born into like that environment. So the point of equity is to give everyone the same, give people what they need so that they can all achieve whatever they want versus just, oh, everyone gets public school. Well, that's also not necessarily and that's not equity,
right.
because some schools are better than others. Like not everyone gets the same access to like textbooks or tutoring or whatever it
Yeah.
is, nutrition.
Yeah.
Um, so I think we are all capable. It's just a matter of adjusting our government and our systems so that we are all able to achieve our full potential.
I agree. I agree. It is definitely, I have a lot of hope for our future that things change, because I think what you said is absolutely right. People should have the same opportunity to go after their dreams and what they want to be.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to make sure I didn't miss anything of where you're at currently. Was there anything
Mhm.
else in your career story that you wanted to share?
Um, no, not really. I conveniently left out that I got married at some point in there. Yeah. So I did get married the same year that I graduated with my degree. No, I
Wow.
got engaged. I got
Okay.
engaged. I
Okay,
got
good.
married in 2020.
Oh
Um,
man, was that pre-COVID?
no, it was the same year of COVID.
Wow.
It was so we were planning to get married in December 2020. Um, but we ended up getting married earlier than that, and we
Yeah.
just kind of did a courthouse marriage because the pandemic wasn't going anywhere. And I think we made the right call because it's still here.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, congratulations on getting married. That's
Thank you.
yeah, what an exciting thing. And I see you guys on Instagram. Well, I see you. Sometimes I see Jorge. And you guys look like you're having fun with your dogs.
Yes, we are. They're our babies.
Yeah, I love
Yes,
that.
I did
Well,
give birth to one of them.
you did.
Yes, the golden retriever.
Yeah.
I birthed him myself.
Oh, that's amazing. Great. Congratulations. Wow. What an interesting thing to say. Oh no, I'm sure it's because you guys have a really close connection. You feel that way.
No, I actually did give birth.
I love it. I love it. Please, off camera, please show me the pictures, because I've got to see how this happened.
Will do.
Okay. Well, Diana, before we end our interview, I wanted to ask you one last question. And you've shared so much already, but what nugget of wisdom would you want the world to know?
Okay, so I'm prepared for this one. The what? Well, you can look it up on Google. It's the feelings wheel. So if you go to feelingswheel.com, it's basically just a giant wheel that has a lot of different emotions. So you've got your basic ones: angry, disgusted, sad, happy, surprised, fearful, bad. And then you've got within that it's a larger, like more like in-depth feeling words. So like scared, anxious, insecure, weak, rejected, threatened. And then you get into even more complex feeling words. And I think this is a really good tool for those of us, myself included, that struggle to identify their emotions. And so that's a free resource, feelingswheel.com. You can look at it and like figure out what you're feeling in any given moment. There's also kids versions of those, so that they have more basic ones, or there's some that have like there's feelings charts that have like emojis and stuff like that for kids that can't read. So that
That's
is a
really
great way
cool.
to get in touch with your emotions and feel connected to them and figure it out, because it's hard to know what
I
you're feeling.
I love that. I totally agree. I think articulating what is like felt throughout your body and just words and
Oh yeah.
is so hard. Even as like I feel like I'm like very like verbal, but I sometimes have a hard time. Like when I get angry, I just feel anger, but it's
Mhm.
just the surface one. And I think I'm excited to
Right.
see this resource that you shared, because yeah, I'm excited to be able to use it. 'Cause I think I might link that too, just on the description, because
Yeah,
that's really neat. Thank you. Well,
no problem.
Diana, I gotta say, I admire you.
Well,
Um,
thank you. Oh, I'm gonna
you're
cry.
you've always been such a sweet friend, cousin, whatever. Um, you were definitely like something solid when I moved to Texas. I was a little older. I was 11, and it was really hard transition for me. But getting to see you, a familiar face, and just to do our pranks and whatever we used to do was just so much fun. I'm so glad we still are close. I feel like we can always pick it back up and have a good time. But I'm proud of you. You're changing the world, and what you do is so humble. But I'm proud of you, and I think you should be too.
Thank you. Thank you for gassing me up. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, that's my love language is words of encouragement. So I just want to make sure
Um,
you feel encouraged today.
well, thank you. And I appreciate you giving me the chance to come on here and talk about myself for a whole
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Thank
it's
you for
always nice to talk about myself.
no, yeah. Well, tell Jorge I said hi and thank him so much for
I will do.
letting me borrow you for an hour. I know I'm sure you guys have dinner plans, so I won't keep you long. But yeah, well, I just want to say I love you. I'm happy for you, and I
Thank you.
support you.
I love you. And I'm proud of you too for all that you've achieved.
Thank
You
you.
are, I could never do all the things that you do of like moving around and just going with the flow. So I admire that about you.
Well, thank you. I'm just trying to figure it out. Oh man. Well, Diana, it's so good to see you. Take care. I love you.
I love you. Thanks for having me on.